Okay, so I'm going to answer this as though you were asking it at my table. That is, every GM has a certain amount of room to interpret what these things mean, how they're going to apply the grid in their games, how it's going to be treated at their table. And so I'm assuming by you asking me that you want to know how I would answer this if you asked it in a game that I was GMing. But in the game that you're actually playing in, your GM might give a different answer. Ultimately, this is going to come down to a question of motivation or priority. As you can see in this chart that I made, I'm going to go ahead and show you this chart, and then I'll kind of explain how to apply it. So that being said, the question that I would ask of you is, what is the priority? What is the motivation behind your character? So they want to help and they want to be helpful. Okay, so how are they defining what help looks like? How are they defining what helpfulness is? Is going to tell you a lot about where they sit on the lawful and chaotic spectrum. But the question that you're asking is chaotic good character that is concerned about themselves. I see why you're using the word concerned, but it doesn't actually tell me what I would need to tell me. And so what I would then end up asking you is, why do they want to be helpful? Why do they want to help? What is their primary motivation? Is their primary motivation their own advancement? Or is it the betterment of the people around them? Which can include them. That's the thing about social benefit, is that your character is part of society. They're a part of particular aspects of society. And so if you benefit, say, the poor, and your character is poor, then they're going to get some benefit from that. But what was their motivation? Was their motivation that by helping their poor, they would get a benefit? Or was their motivation that the poor need help, and I can see that they need help because I'm so close to them, and therefore I'm going to help them in a way that I understand they actually need because I understand the situation. See, that's two very different motivations, and what those motivations tell you is where you sit on that good and evil spectrum, where the more it's about helping out this class of people that I happen to belong to, the more good it is. The more that it's about helping me, and by extension helping people like me, the more it shifts towards evil. Now again, if you haven't watched the first video, I encourage you to watch the first video. I'm not saying that this is concrete morality that we are living by. I'm describing how to apply the D&D alignment chart. So, when you say that your character is concerned with themselves, do you mean that more often than not, their objectives, their motivations are self-focused, are about benefiting themselves? When it comes down to it, when push comes to shove, if they have to choose between themselves and benefiting some larger group of people that they may or may not belong to, what are they going to choose? When they hear phrases like, the good of the many outweighs the good of the few, how do they respond to that? Do they view that as generally true? Do they view that as absolutely true? Do they view that as, it's a case-by-case basis? Or do they just sit there and no, the good of the one outweighs the good of the many. What is good for me is what I need to be pursuing. This is how you're going to define where you're at on that spectrum. And so if your character is someone who is very much where their mindset is, like, me first, I'm going to benefit me, and whatever benefit that confers people like me is secondary. Or I'm going to help people, and the reason I'm going to help people is that I, want to be seen as someone who helps people. I want to get the benefits of being someone who helps people. If those things are your motivation, then yeah, I would argue that your character is not chaotic good. I would put them closer to evil, depending on where they are. As you see, again, I'll show you this chart here. As you can see, looking at it, there are degrees, and you can end up being in a neutral territory. Maybe they're chaotic neutral, maybe they're actually chaotic evil, but I wouldn't really put them at chaotic good if that is their motivation. If, however, their motivation is more outward focused more often, then they start to move up on that chart, on that spectrum, closer to the chaotic good. If this chart is beneficial to you, I encourage you to use it. You go ahead and share it wherever, I don't care. It took me 5 minutes to make it in Paint, so whatever, man. It's just a tool. If your GM disagrees with this and they're applying the alignment in a different way, then this is probably not going to be very useful to you. That would be my answer, though, is that the question ultimately comes down to the motivation, the primary motivating force for this character. And if it is truly self, then they're not chaotic good.